Offsides with Mark Ryan.
Happy Monday, my friends. This is the most interactive sports talk show. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. And we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. National Championship game tonight. Appreciate you guys so much. Here's how you can take part in the show. 844-326-3663 is the number. And you can hit us on the text line 71307. Just start your text with the word fan and away you go. Coming up on the show today, it's time to stop really dancing around the issue here. Okay? He's not been great. I'll tell you who that is at 3:20. Jim Szoke will help us put a bow on a building that is falling apart at 3:40 p.m. today. What the new college football playoff is going to look like and what to expect in tonight's national championship game. What are the most likely upsets coming your way in week one of the NFL playoffs? We've got Chris Phillips joining us at 4:30 p.m. We've got the top 5 at 5. We have the NFL player under the most pressure entering this playoff season, and we have you here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. So I was hosting a network show over the weekend, and I was reading something from Ross Dellinger, who's been a guest on this show. He's been a guest with me on CBS, and he has a quote from having spoken to a Power 5 athletic director. All right, so there's only 65 of these, okay? Power 5 athletic director. And the quote reads, "If Michigan wins the national championship, there ought to be a damn asterisk next to it." What do you guys think? Like, as we sit here today on the day of the national championship game, and when we open that up on CBS, the phone lines went nuts. Everybody's got an opinion. Opinions are like blank. Everybody's got one.
Buttholes.
There you go. So,
legal to say on the radio.
That's right. If Michigan wins on Monday, given their sign-stealing scandal, is there an asterisk next to this title?
You know what an asterisk kind of looks like?
A snowflake.
A beehole.
Something like that. Yeah. So this particular athletic director also said they're a good football team. Very good football team. But this shows my concern with the NCAA process. This is our system, and it's unfortunate. The system allows it. Allows what? I would say it allows cheating is what he means, right? The system allows it, which is why we've got to change so much. It's ridiculous that they are there parading around, said one Power 5 head coach. It is not good for the game. So, who cares really about vacated wins, head coach suspension, scholarship reductions, future postseason bans? For Michigan, all are listed as possibilities, right? But do you really care about future postseason bans if you won the national title? Do you really care about the weakest of these, which is vacated wins? Do you really care about a head coach suspension for a head coach who's probably going to be leaving Ann Arbor this offseason anyway? I was told by Jason La Canfora on Saturday that whether Jim Harbaugh returns to Michigan is very, very much a 50-50 proposition. Diesel, he told me Los Angeles Chargers or the Michigan Wolverines. Justin Herbert or Michigan. Remember, his first coaching job in college, Jim Harbaugh was the coach where? The University of San Diego, which means a whale's asterisk. That's what it means.
USD or SDSU?
No, USD, University of San Diego.
I've never heard of University of San Diego.
It's a thing, apparently.
I'm going to say that their mascot, this is just a guess. I don't know, because I'm usually pretty good at the mascot game. I'm going to say that they are the University of San Diego sperm whales.
I think they are a whale's hoo-ha. I think that's the mascot of the University of San Diego. But those are the candidates. That's where Jim Harbaugh is considering going. Jim Harbaugh just wants to deal with football. He came to play football. He didn't come to play school. Okay? And he's tired of the NCAA's rules. He's tired of the lack of continuity in keeping his team together. He's tired of all of it. Just wants to deal with football. But come on, man. I mean, we got to do something about this. Diesel, I took a call Saturday, and the call said, Mark, I would have been totally okay if you kept them out of the college football playoff. But now that they're in the playoff, if they win, they are the rightful national champion. And he said, just like Pete Rose is the hits king, just like Barry Bonds is the home run champion, it says that in the record book.
Spur Daddy sends 4 asterisks, putting the ass in asterisks.
Yeah, he is.
To the YouTube chat. Madcraft says the Astros have an asterisk, and they're still champions. It does not matter. Madcraft, people bring it up every single time. People question that championship every single time it is mentioned. So, yeah, it still matters. In the eyes of the fans, it's an illegitimate championship.
So, 2 SEC administrators said if they win, it doesn't diminish anything. Another one said, I don't have a problem with them being there. There are more egregious things going on right now in college football. Michigan offensive lineman Trevor Keegan said the following: we've proved these allegations wrong ever since this thing blew up. We beat our in-state rival 49-0. Penn State basically just running the football without our head coach after finding out the day before. We beat our biggest rival in Ohio State. We beat Iowa, and we beat Alabama. What else do we have to do? And so my take on this, ladies and gentlemen, is as follows, okay? It's not about how much cheating did or did not help you. If it didn't help you, why are you doing it? Okay? And if you're going to hit me with Jim Harbaugh didn't know, I'm going to say he damn well should have known. If you're going to hit me with everybody's doing it, I'm going to tell you to show me the list of everybody who's doing it. Okay? I know Michigan's doing it. I also heard a lot, you can't penalize the kids. Isn't it something, Diesel? They're kids when it works for the argument, but then they're very clearly adults when they're leaving for 7-figure paychecks. Mm-hmm. Okay? You can't hurt the kids. Well, I would also tell you that if you watch that video that we had, okay, it's all over the Fan Upstate, Twitter and Facebook, where Michigan is playing Ohio State a year ago. Ohio State changes their play at the line, and Michigan players on the sidelines are jumping up and down, alerting the Michigan defense to what's coming. Guys, you can tell me everybody steals signs. There are levels to this. If somebody is not discreet enough with their hand signals and you pick up something, that is not cheating. If you are using illegal devices to film, that is cheating. So to me, there is an asterisk next to this title because it's not about Michigan didn't need to cheat to be good. Obviously, Michigan doesn't need to cheat to be good. But how much of a disgrace and a shame is it when the smart kid in class that doesn't need to cheat is still cheating? The smart kid who cheats doesn't still get a 96 because he didn't need to cheat. He gets a 0. So I ask you guys, where is Michigan's 0? They haven't gotten a 0. Like, the NCAA encourages you to cheat because there's no punishment till the end of time. Remember the playoff committee said, well, we are, we think this is an NCAA issue. We think it's an NCAA issue. Okay? But the NCAA is not going to do anything. Neither did you. Michigan should have been far more on the chopping block to make the college football playoff than Florida State. Far more on the chopping block. By the way, we have this clip here from Jim Harbaugh on his NFL future. Diesel, can we put the BS meter up to this with what Jim Harbaugh is saying right here? Let's listen to what he says. Ladies and gentlemen, the BS meter. What does your BS meter read after this?
No idea about that. Couldn't be more happy to be here. This is a tremendous scene. They do everything big in Texas, and this is cool. This is right where we want to be, Heather. This is where we work to get there. Yeah, there's a calendar. I'll gladly talk about the future next week, and I hope to have one. How about that? A future? I hope to have. Thank you.
What a shyster.
Yeah, no, look, and I don't hate Michigan, and I don't hate Jim Harbaugh. Okay, I really don't.
He reminds me of
the schema.
But I call BS on this. I call BS. This Diesel has the feel to me of a coach who doesn't care what he's busted for because he's on his way out. Just like, many of us who had senioritis, didn't care. Did any of you guys skip detentions your final 6 weeks of high school? What do you care? What are they going to do to you? You're out. You're out. It feels like that to me. Mongo texts in, and Mongo is wrong. He says, no asterisk. The NCAA dropped the ball on this. So if a cheater wins, it's on them. Well, but Mongo, the NCAA always drops the ball.
That was buffoonery. That was complete and total buffoonery.
They always drop the ball. So we are used to them not doing the right thing. Therefore, we have to be the ones that do the right thing.
Give me an example, Mongo, of a time that the NCAA did the right thing. And then give me, they'll make it harder so that you just can't say the wide receiver from North Carolina this year. Give me a situation where they did the right thing the first time. Not after months of pressure, not after hearing about it from college football fans. Give me a situation where the NCAA made the right call the first time.
And you see how this whole system works, Diesel. Again, it's both sides of it. It's the NCAA had the chance. They didn't do anything, so there's no asterisk. Do you remember what Michigan fans were saying when the cheating scandal blew up? They said, we're entitled to due process. So now you guys are flipping it both ways, whatever way it suits you. Oh, the NCAA didn't do anything, so there's no asterisk. But then when we said eliminate them now, they're entitled to due process. Well, we know they cheated. You know they cheated. They fired the guy who cheated. They accepted their punishment, accepted their penalty. They dropped it. You know what's going on here. Folks, how is there not an asterisk next to this national championship? How is there not if Michigan wins? There's got to be. There's simply got to be. All right. 71307 is the text line. Those of you on YouTube, please drop your text messages in on the text line as well. Would be great to have you there. Texter says Jim's name is also mentioned for Atlanta and Carolina as well. Yeah, but he was mentioned a year ago. Was interested a year ago.
I mean, his name's going to be attached to every single open job.
Dave Tepper did not want to yield the control to Jim Harbaugh that would have been required. And that is the biggest mistake you've ever seen in your life. Dave Tepper needs nothing more than to shut up and get out of the way and stuff a sock in his pie hole and get out of everybody's way. Let the football people do football things. You, David, and your wife, Nicole, are obviously not football people. We've seen what you guys being football people looks like. Jim Zoki, by the way, joining us at 3:40 p.m. today on the show. Let's see here. Texter says, spelled Diesel's name wrong. He says SMU getting the death penalty was the last time the NCAA did something right.
You've seen Pony Excess just as many times as I have, Mark, and Texter as well. By the way, how do you spell Diesel, D-E-I-S-E-L? You drive past the gas station and you see it spelled correctly every single day. and then autocorrect probably tries to fix it for you when you spell it incorrectly. And then what do? You go back and change it anyway? I don't understand how people still spell the word incorrectly. Either way, you've seen Pony Excess as many times as I have, Mark. There was evidence that every single program in the Southwest Conference was cheating at the same level as SMU. So the NCAA giving SMU the death penalty was the right thing to do. But the wrong thing to do was to give only SMU the death penalty. Every single program in that conference deserved the death penalty because there was evidence that every single program in that conference was doing the same thing.
I think it was Pony Express.
No, Pony Excess. Pony Express was the name of the guys on horseback that carried mail in the Wild West. Pony Excess was the name of the documentary, the 30 for 30 film.
Okay. Pony Excess. There you go, my friends. Okay.
Mongo texts in and says, I before E except after C. Whoever spelled diesel wrong has to be a tater.
Really?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, listen, it's never too early. It's never too late to get some good Clemson, South Carolina hate going on up in here. Okay, guys, for all those listening right now, I would love for you to say, you can text in one word. Yes, Michigan's title comes with an asterisk. So if you text in yes, that means there's an asterisk. If you text in no, that means there's no asterisk. Okay, to Michigan's title, should they win tonight. You've heard it from me in this segment. I believe there is very much an asterisk next to the title, should Michigan win. And if you listen to the show on Friday, you know that I think they will. All right. It's time to take the kid gloves off when it comes to this NFL player. It's just time, guys. You know, there comes a time and place where you have to acknowledge that the narrative is not accurate. And that's next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. And we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. Jim Zoki, Carolina Panthers broadcast team, joins us in the next segment of the show. I had multiple people come out to me yesterday and say the following to me. They said, Mark Ryan, please stop calling them the Carolina Panthers. We do not claim them. Okay? So this thing started with the Carolina Panthers being called such because they're named for both North and South Carolina. That's how it started. Here's how it's going. Please call them the North Carolina Panthers, Mark Ryan. Sincerely, folks in South Carolina. That's how it's going. Diesel, Jim Zoki has done an amazing job towing the line on what to say and what not to say this year. So I was somewhat surprised when he tweeted yesterday when the game was over, get out of here 2023 season.
Okay. You know that scene in Con Air when Nicolas Cage is leaning his head back and the wind is blowing through his stringy hair? That's how Jim Zoki has to feel escaping the 2023 East Carolina season and Carolina Panthers season. Like, he was a part of two awful football teams this year. And it's just breathe the free air, brother. It's we're glad to have you back.
It's normal for people that work in sports media to feel a little fatigued in January because you've been through a 4-month gauntlet, right? Of just wall-to-wall football coverage. How do you think Jim Szoke feels? I mean, with what he's been through. Saturdays and Sundays and travel and back and forth and nothing but else. Nothing but else. You know how people always say that they place bets and, hey, man, if this happens, I'll get this guy's face tattooed on my butt cheek, right? Like, you know how they always do that? Diesel, can you think of a bet worse? And I can't believe no one's ever done this before. Like, how come nobody's ever agreed to a bet where you would have an L on your forehead? It's possible,
Well,
right?
you've seen the latest Mayhem commercial, right? It's the normal guy from the Mayhem commercial.
Yeah.
He's riding down the road on a tricycle. And he's got a sign on his chest that says, honk at me. And he's got one long strip of hair shaved down the side of his head because he lost. He lost a bet. He lost a big bet.
Well, anyway, guys, I want to shift gears to this. It's time to take the kid gloves off on one particular person. Okay, it's time. It's just time. And that particular person is, of course, Trevor Lawrence. Guys, he's been not great in his NFL career. That's not to say he's been awful. That is to say he's been not great. Okay? And in a must-win game that Jacksonville had to have yesterday, they took the L. They were never really in the contest. And Trevor Lawrence was 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, an 81 rating, a QBR of 41.9, 50 is average. He was not good. Ryan Tannehill, who was benched this year, was far better than Trevor Lawrence was. Travis Etienne didn't do much, 57 yards rushing in the game there. Jacksonville lost 28-20. A late 4th and goal was stopped by the Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry goes out with a 100-yard game. That was his last game in Tennessee, in all likelihood. Ryan Tannehill goes out with a dub. They had some memorable moments with Ryan at quarterback. Now, in my opinion, Ryan Tannehill has entered the backup phase of his career, the permanent backup phase of his career. But that is not what this segment is focused on. This segment is focused on Trevor Lawrence. And the narrative continues to be, Trevor Lawrence, bona fide, surefire, franchise quarterback. Hasn't played like it. Guys, take the kid gloves off. It's not about whether he's a good kid, okay? It's not about whether you like him. It's not about what he did at Clemson and whether he is 1A or 1B on the all-time Clemson quarterback list. It's about what he's done or lack thereof in the National Football League. Now, I'd like to let you know that when Jacksonville was 8-3, all right, when they were 8-3 6 weeks ago, they had a 98% chance to make the playoffs. 98%. Heading into their game yesterday, they had a 90% chance to make the playoffs. 90, as in 9-0. All they had to do was beat lowly Tennessee or have Pittsburgh and Denver lose. Okay, that's all they had to do. Neither of those things happened. Baltimore had nothing to play for. That didn't help Jacksonville. Pittsburgh beat Baltimore. That didn't help Jacksonville. All that happened on Saturday night. Jacksonville needed to win when the game came on to be in, and they couldn't do it against a team that was 5-11. Guys, to me, I give Trevor Lawrence credit for the following. Okay? I give him credit for battling injuries. All right. And I give him credit. He had concussion, ankle problem. We all saw the high ankle sprain was brutal. Shoulder problem, which he had at Clemson. I remember him having an MRI of his shoulder at Clemson. The way that he battled to ensure that he was there for his team when his team needed him is commendable. I appreciate the fact that he did whatever he could to be out there. But again, this isn't about Trevor's character. We know about his character. Okay? Great kid, Christian kid. Teammates love him, has the right attitude. Everybody knows that. He's not playing well enough. He's got to up his game. And I can illustrate this with numbers that'll blow you away. Okay? In his very class, in his very rookie draft class, a rookie draft class that is not looking very, very good right now. Trey Lance, 3rd pick. How's that going? Zach Wilson, 2nd pick. How's that going? Mac Jones, 14th pick. How's that going? Justin Fields, 11th pick. How's that going? The narrative might be that Trevor Lawrence is great because the other guys in his draft class suck. But when you consider those guys in the draft class, how about this? Career quarterback rating. Mac Jones, 86. Trevor Lawrence, 85. Justin Fields, 82. Trevor Lawrence's career quarterback rating is in between that of Mac Jones and Justin Fields. My friends, it's just not good enough. It just isn't good enough. And it's okay. You're not going to lose your Clemson fan card to say it. Okay? First year, you say rookie year, bad coach, Urban Meyer, you're going to give him a pass. Last year, very nice. 25 touchdowns, 8 picks. This year, 21 touchdown passes, 14 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 88. Not good enough. Not good enough. It's okay to say that. He is too mistake prone. He commits way too many turnovers. He has a level of confidence that he thinks his arm can make plays that he really can't. Trevor Lawrence makes poor decisions with the football. There is no way, injuries or no injuries, that a team that was 8-3 should miss out on the playoffs when you've got Trevor Lawrence playing in the final game. Playing in the final game, there's no way that team should miss out on the postseason. It just should not happen. Okay? Now, if you ask me, Mark, okay, where does Trevor Lawrence rank rating-wise in the National Football League? What is Trevor Lawrence's quarterback rating? His 88.5 is 23rd among starting quarterbacks. 32-team league, 23rd. How about QBR? Because you like QBR better. His QBR is 16th out of 32 teams. 16th. So average those together if you want. Trevor Lawrence is ranked 20th in terms of the metrics used to evaluate quarterback performance in the National Football League. That's not what the narrative is on Trevor, is it? The narrative is surefire, bona fide, franchise quarterback. He hasn't been that guy. He's not that guy. You know, last year they made it to the final 8. This year they don't even get in. You don't have to toe the company line here. You don't have to do it. All right? So it is what it is. I don't want to hear about dropped balls. What help did Justin Fields have, especially before this year? What help did Mac Jones have? I don't want to hear about dropped balls by the wide receivers. He turns the ball over. He's not played well enough. Texter says, whoa, boy, here comes the torches and pitchforks. You can't besmirch Malibu Trevor. You can't besmirch him. Well, I don't think this is besmirching anybody. I think this is calling a spade a spade. I think this is being honest. Texter says, I'm still learning, but shouldn't Jacksonville's defense be held more accountable than Trevor? No, Texter. I mean, held more accountable for what? His performance? He hasn't performed. He's not been good. Mark, if you thought Zach Wilson was going to be good, he played at BYU and struggled against New Mexico State. Yeah, but he made a fancy pass at his pro day where he was rolling one way and through the other, and the Jets fell in love with him ever since. Look, the Jets would be better if they had Trevor Lawrence. There's no doubt about that. Okay, there's no doubt. But I'm here to tell you guys that Trevor's numbers since he's been in the league point to an average quarterback. And before you want to hit me with drop passes and first year was Urban Meyer, I would say, what has Mac Jones had? What has Justin Fields had? What has Zach Wilson had? What playing opportunity has Trey Lance had? Performance has not been good. It's okay to say that. It's okay to be part of the media machine that is motivating Trevor to be better this year. Because if you actually think about it, ladies and gentlemen, that division was the most no-brainer division that anybody should have won. You know, like and if I sound a little sore, I am. I had 2 bets that I lost for Jacksonville to win the division and Jacksonville to make the playoffs. 2 bets that I lost. Okay? We thought Tennessee would be a dumpster fire, and they were. We thought Indianapolis would be a dumpster fire starting a rookie quarterback, and Shane Steichen was better than expected. We didn't expect Houston to be competent, and they were. But you know why they were? Because C.J. Stroud was much better than Trevor Lawrence. Much better than Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you look at the different divisions, that should have been the easiest division win that exists in the National Football League. Trevor Lawrence, Super Bowl winning coach Doug Peterson. I mean, that's as easy a win as it gets. 2 teams starting rookie quarterbacks became 3 teams starting rookie quarterbacks. Tennessee rookie quarterback, Indianapolis at the start of the year, Houston all year long, rookie quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence and company could not win a division that had nothing but rookie quarterbacks. Meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence's quarterback rating, 23rd, C.J. Stroud, 6th. Trevor Lawrence's QBR, 16th. C.J. Stroud's QBR, 15th. Rookie quarterback beat him in both categories. What's the excuse? It's time to grow up. It's time to be better. I'm not going to let you continue with the bogus narrative, okay? Not going to let you continue with that because it's bogus, okay? It is very, very much bogus. So realize that for what it is. Thank you very much for playing. I'm Mark Ryan, and I approve this message. You don't have to like everything we say. Don't have to like it. All right, my friends. Up next on the show, we put a bow on this year's disgraceful Carolina Panthers season. Right here with Jim Szoke of the Carolina Panthers broadcast team. Next, here on Offsides, we are the Fan Upstate. As is always the case on a Monday after a Carolina Panthers game, we're joined by none other than Jim Szoke, analyst on Carolina Panthers games, the color commentator for Carolina. And he joins us right now on the show. Jim, you tweeted out yesterday at the end of the game, get out of here 2023 season. And I laughed so hard at that. And I want to let you know that is such a breath of fresh air because fans grow tired of play-by-play guys, broadcasting guys, always trying to quote-unquote put lipstick on the pig. That was so refreshing because it showed that you're feeling the same way, right? Get out of here 2023 season. Can you just share with us, Jim, to the best of your ability, what it was like to endure that week in and week out?
I guess it's, what's that phrase, the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing every week, expecting a different outcome. And while there's some tweaks along the way and a coaching change, the big picture was pretty much the same thing as far as the lack of offense. Defense played pretty solid. And you were just kind of hoping to get to the fourth quarter and something might happen where you could win a game. And you probably saw the stat, they never led in the fourth quarter of a game all season, which has never been done before. Both wins came on the final zeros on the clock with a field goal. So, I mean, it was just really one of the worst offensive teams that's been around this league for a while. And it's easy to determine what needs to be fixed with it as far as what's the number one priority as far as putting some things around Bryce Young for next season. But, yeah, I mean, it's, broadcasting losses is one thing, but when you don't score 2 weeks in a row, like you guys were off for the holidays, we've not scored points since the last time I talked to you. So it's kind of been a long season in that way.
Jim, can you pinpoint the event horizon, the game, the moment at which point it was, if things don't turn around here, Scott Fitterer is not going to be with this team going forward? Or if things had turned around here, Scott was probably going to be safe and stay with this team into the future?
Yeah, I think, probably by the time we got to November, you could kind of see where things were going in general, and that it wasn't going to be a big enough of a turning of the tide that it was going to save jobs and all that. And of course, it was out of the game where they lost at Tennessee, where Frank Reich got fired. I think when that happened, that was kind of the line in the sand for everybody. And you hope to get a little spark with Chris Tabor, but even when Chris Tabor was inserted as the interim head coach, it was never with the thought and he might turn things around and he might become the next head coach, like a Steve Wilkes potential situation where he was a very strong candidate as far as what he should have been viewed as. But I think it's probably the same boat for Scott from that sense that, once things started to go south and the offense, the only really game where they had offense was Green Bay. And in hindsight, you kind of look at that, their defensive coordinator was under fire before we even had that game as far as what his standing was for Green Bay. So I think probably that Tennessee game was kind of the final straw in a lot of ways for this entire season.
We're going to call it what it is, Jim, because we know who's pulling the strings there. If Tepper could do these over again, okay, does he still make the trade for Bryce Young? Who does he hire? Because obviously not Frank Reich. Your best guess if he could do both over again.
I think, there's no denying what C.J. Stroud has done. I mean, it's been almost historical from a rookie season standpoint. So it'd be foolish not to say something about, C.J. Stroud, how well he's played. Having said that, I think the organization feels, very much like the long play of Bryce Young is still going to work out, that they don't want to judge it on this first season because of what Bryce was working with. I mean, he was sacked 62 times, which is one of the most in the history of the league. And obviously, we've all seen the skill position players around him could be greatly improved along with what the offensive line is. So definitely give this season to C.J. Stroud. But I don't think that they feel like they missed on Bryce Young. I think and Todd Bowles, I assume, wouldn't say things he doesn't mean. The Buccaneers head coach said he thinks that Bryce Young could become one of the best to ever do this. It was his direct quote this past week. That's pretty high praise. But I think people would accept the fact that I think Bryce Young deserves the opportunity to play behind a solid offensive line, more dynamic playmakers before making a permanent judgment. I mean, obviously for this 1 year, definitely C.J. Stroud, anybody would look at that and go, what an amazing year. And I think with Frank Reich, I think probably the biggest mistake was, and Hayden Hurst talked about it in the locker room today a little bit, was there were a lot of different voices talking this year. And it wasn't just Frank Reich. They brought in all these different coaches, all bringing, and they did it on purpose to bring in different philosophies, different approaches, different ideas. And it was probably too much. So I think they realized that was probably the bigger mistake out of maybe even the fact that it was Frank Reich, was just the construction of a coaching staff that brought a lot of different personalities and elements from different places that probably needed more synergy and more one thought to a lot of what they were doing.
Jim, you had the unfortunate situation of covering two bad football teams this year. What's going to be your method of disconnecting? Like, are you taking a trip down into the Caribbean somewhere to completely change your mindset? How's the Zoki family going to change your mindset?
Yeah, we've not planned the vacation or vacations for this year. They will involve not preparing or calling any football game, college or pro, as far as filling out a board and doing any kind of play-by-play or color for the next couple of months. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, yeah, sometimes you just hit. I mean, we've done 29 years of Panthers football, 1 year of East Carolina, so that was a down season for them. But last year the Panthers weren't great, but they won 7, so at least they were something where you felt like there was something good going on there for a while. Sometimes you just hit it. I mean, I think it's still Mark Champion doing the Detroit Pistons. I was thinking about, what are they, 3-34? But not only that, they had a 28-game losing streak, and they still have like 45 games more to go in a season like that. So, sometimes, and they've had obviously some great Detroit Piston teams through the years. Sometimes you just hit some clunkers in there every now and then if you do it long enough.
Jim Zoki joining us here on the show, color commentator, Carolina Panthers. Jim, if we can we do this like you do, looking at colleges with the kids, or when you were a senior in high school? For me, it was dream school, realistic school, and safety school. Okay. And for me, honestly, the dream school was Wake Forest. The realistic school was Florida. And the safety school was Florida State. Okay. And I ended up going to Florida. Wake Forest was the school that rejected me. Still bitter about that. I will tell you. So if we do that for Carolina head coaches, Jim, who is the guy takes the job, safety school? Who's a realistic candidate? Who's the dream candidate?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm not even sure who all the candidates would be at this time, but I think Ben Johnson would probably top the list as far as, I guess I'd go in the dream candidate. I think that was someone they were interested in last year, and I think with the quarterback they have here, giving him the best opportunity with kind of today's style of offense in the NFL, that could be probably the home run hit for them. So I think that would be certainly one. Beyond that, there's going to be a lot of names that are floated out there, and as far as safety and what's practical and all those kind of things, that's hard to say. But I would think when you've come off a season like this, you want to swing for the fences and hope you land and spend a lot of money on the guy you want. And I think Ben Johnson would be that guy from the Lions, would certainly be one of the guys that would be right at the top of the list. I think, somebody that would take it. I think it'd probably like someone like Bobby Slowick. It'd be an upgrade for him to be able to come here and be a head coach from what he did with C.J. Stroud with Houston last year. So I think certainly someone like that would be a person that would take the job if offered, because I think he's obviously now wanting to be a head coach, and he may not even be for this cycle. That may be a year away for him as far as where he actually lands as a head coach. But that'd be another one they'll certainly want to talk to, I'm sure.
Jim, what's your reaction to the comments that DJ Chark had in the post-game locker room conversation regarding the fumble there at the 1 yard line? I mean, I'm watching it, and I have really tried to divorce my fandom over the past 8 or 9 weeks and say, well, let's just find something funny about the struggles of this team. And it's probably not funny to you, but it was funny to me having to cover the team, every single week. But DJ Chark had his comments in the post-game press conference, in the locker room, saying, well, it happened, and the guy that made the play deserves a Pro Bowl nod for that. Didn't really take a ton of accountability for the mistake. What's your reaction to that?
I think, DJ was just in the moment trying to make a play. Those are, there are some coaches that coach like, don't reach for the pylon, because what you can get is get knocked out of bounds in the end zone, and as a touchback goes to the other team. As it turned out, they actually recovered the ball in the end zone there. And the nod to Antoine Winfield was, pretty much everyone believes, just like Derek Brown, he should have been a Pro Bowl player this past year, wasn't named to the Pro Bowl squad. He had a phenomenal season. He had 5 sacks. He had 5 forced fumbles, I think 6 without one, 4 fumble recoveries. He just had an incredible season and was not named to the Pro Bowl for the Buccaneers. So that, I think that was kind of a nod to his season overall. And he made a great play like he's done all year at the 1 yard line. And you sometimes you tip your hat and say that was a great defensive play and not giving up by Antoine Winfield. But if you look at when DJ Chark made that decision, he reaches kind of loosely with one hand for the end zone. I think if you ever are going to do that, it's got to be a strong two hands and know that somebody's coming to knock. You see the player coming at you. You've got to hang on to that ball, or it's going to be a touchback if it goes out of bounds. And again, they recovered it in play. It was the same effect. So I think, DJ certainly had more downs than ups. He had a couple great catches in the Green Bay game and earlier on against Seattle. But, by and large, there were a lot of drops, and they were expecting a lot more big impact plays from him that just didn't happen all season.
Jim Szoke, color commentator, Carolina Panthers. He's been there for us every single Monday this week, rain or shine, and there's been a lot more rain than shine, but there's always hope for a brighter tomorrow. Jim, thanks for all you do and the consistency with which you joined us. It means the world. We think the world of you. Enjoy your off season, sir. Some much needed rest in your future, hopefully. Take care.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right, take care. Jim Szoke, Carolina Panthers, every single week joined us. How about that stat, Diesel, from Jim Szoke? Never been a team in NFL history that never led in the fourth quarter. The Carolina Panthers didn't lead in the fourth quarter. He said both of their wins came at 0-0.
That is wild. I heard a stat this morning, and I'm going to get this a little bit wrong, so forgive me for this. But it was that the Carolina Panthers haven't scored on their opening drive of a game the entire season.
Yeah.
Not once on their opening drive.
Oh, yeah. And how about this?
It might have even been 18 months, so it might have been going back into last season.
Houston scored on their first play, against Indianapolis. And I that struck me, Diesel, because it was the first time all year that an NFL team had scored a touchdown on their first play. Hadn't happened all year until Houston did it.
Yeah, I was going through the laundry list of insults to injuries as it regards to David Tepper and what might cause him to throw another drink out the window. I mean, there was so many ways that this could go bad and make him angry and turn this thing into a Gallagher show. I mean, you had Baker Mayfield coming in and winning on your field. You had the coach and the quarterback who you could have had making the playoffs on Saturday in Houston. You had what else was there? There was I had a list of them. Now I'm blanking on them off the top of my head. But it was that Steve Wilkes was voted in the top 5 of most popular coaches from the NFLPA survey. It was that Steve Wilkes' defense in San Francisco is the 7th ranked defense in the NFL going into yesterday's games. I think I might even and it was $14 tickets leading into the week prior, leading into the game. I mean, there were so many ways that Dave Tepper was going to get angry at this game, and I was just waiting for him to blow a gasket.
And that's exactly, my friend, what happened. All right. It is the one stat that paints a path to victory for Washington on tonight. What is that stat? It's next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, the Fan Upstate.
With Mark Ryan. This is
What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Wonderful to have you guys with us. 844 fan phone is the number. That's 844-326-3663 is the number to get to us here on the show today. Let us see here. Why would Tepper want to win? If Jim can win there, Tepper would fire him if they do win. Let's see here. Texter says Clemson Oculus. By the way, I had a chance to hang with Clemson Oculus for a little bit yesterday. It was great to see you, Oculus. He says, yes, the Michigan title would come with an asterisk. Dan B says, yes, it would come. Texter says the Pony Express was the nickname for Eric Dickerson and Craig James and their stable of running backs. Pony XS, a play on words. Mongo says, let's see here. Texter says, it hurts to see Trevor not have the success that he had at Clemson, but he is young yet. He can still get there. He definitely has work to do, though. And this year should serve as the wake-up call. Let us see how he responds. All right, guys. Time for some national championship talk. All right, time for some national championship talk, which, of course, means that we here at Offsides have a challenge for you. Only that we are not going to push this challenge out weeks or months, etc. You win this challenge, you're becoming a sports radio show host this week. This week. Challenge is simply your score for the national championship game. Now, I want you to participate, but I only want you to participate if you are going to accept the prize. What happens is, this is the whole never go to a grocery store hungry thing, right? Never go to a grocery store hungry because your eyes are bigger than your wallet or your stomach. You think you can eat all these things and you cannot. Never go to a grocery store hungry. You think you'd like to be a sports talk show host, but what's happened a number of times when we've done this, that really, this could be the last shot of this, really. So the person who wins this could either make it or break it for everybody moving forward. We've had way too many people that win the contest, win the challenge, where you get to host a segment of the show, and then the day comes and they have a mysterious choking-itis where they get scared about coming on the radio. They get scared about hosting their own segments. Do not be a wuss. You win, you host. Okay? And if you don't want to host, then don't partake in the challenge. With that said, here we go. Your score for the national championship game tonight. All right? So, first thing you got to do is get the winner. Get the winner right. Next thing you got to do, okay? Next thing that you have to do is get closest to the actual score. Diesel and I collectively will judge this not just based on the actual score, but also the point differential. So, for example, if you say it's going to be a 1-point game and your score is 36-35 and the actual score is 10-9, you got the differential right, but you really weren't right in terms of the style of the game. So we will factor all of that stuff in. We will make an educated decision. And if you nail this, you're hosting a segment of this show, potentially with your own intro, coming up this Friday at the final segment of the 4 o'clock hour. What do you say? Or if you say, hey, Mark, the final segment of the 5 o'clock hour is better for me because of work, we'll do it then. Final segment of the 4 o'clock hour, final segment of the 5 o'clock hour. What we need from you are your national championship picks. All right? So go ahead, send them in. You win, you're hosting a segment of this show on Friday. And you will get to be a sports radio show host for a 4 to 5 minute segment. All we ask is you come up with the content to cover the 4 to 5 minutes. There you go. The challenge, the gauntlet has been drawn. We will know who the winner is, and we will announce the winner when the show begins tomorrow. I will also have you know that I got in all of your upset picks to Dan B today. So as far as I know, every upset pick that needs to be in is in to determine a winner in our upset picks challenge.
You know what this hosting a segment of the show does, Mark? It separates the wheat from the what?
Chaff.
There you go.
Yeah, I got it right twice in a row. Here we go. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Look at this. Look what we got here. 844-FAN phone. You can also call in your pick, 844-326-3663. And the text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. E. Thoughty says, I'll take Washington winning 30-27. Brian Pettit says, Michigan 35, Washington 31. Clemson Oculus says Washington 35, Michigan 30. Grant in Five Forks says, Mark, Michigan takes it 34-20. Picks coming in early, picks coming in often. These are real manly men who are not going to run from the victory. Should they take the dub, they're going to take the microphone. They're going to be the host of Offsides for a segment, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Texter just texted in 34-30 Michigan, but didn't leave his name. Texter, we need your name. We need your score. Michigan and Washington. Let us make that happen. Okay, so I shared with you the tease for this segment was as follows. Okay, what is the stat that points to potentially a Washington win? Okay, the stat that most favorably points towards a Washington win. What is that statistic? It's simply the following. Okay, would you believe that the adage, you remember the adage, blank wins championships, defense wins championships, right? You remember that adage? What if I told you that in the NFL, a league that seems to be getting copied a lot by college football, we're losing the regionality of college football, Oregon and UCLA and USC and Washington, all to the Big Ten. We've lost the regionality. The college football's trying to be the NFL right now. I don't like it, but it is what it is.
The Sun Belt's not. Next year, it'll be the only conference that has East-West divisions.
And hallelujah to you guys, Diesel. I mean, that's
hopefully
awesome.
we don't change. Don't fall to peer pressure. Don't change just because everybody else is changing.
I love that, and I hope it remains that way forever. I really do. At the same token, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to say, man, this is kind of feeling more like the NFL. Expanded playoff, loss of regionality. So let's look at the NFL for a minute. Who's winning Super Bowls in the National Football League? What if I told you, okay, that the last 6 Super Bowl champions all had a top 10 total offense in the National Football League? And what if I told you that only one of the last 5 Super Bowl champions had a top 10 defense? I'm hitting you with the truth right now. Defense wins championships. That's not what the NFL is telling you, okay? 6 for 6 top 10 offenses, 1 for 5 top 10 defenses have been your Super Bowl champion. That stat to me, applied to the increasingly NFL-ish college football, puts a feather in the cap of Washington tonight. Why? Because Washington, my friends, had the 94th ranked defense in the country. 94th ranked defense. Washington against the pass is 120th in America versus Michigan's defense, which is number 1 in the country. Number 1 in America. How about the offensive side of the ball? Well, that is where Washington excels, on the offensive side of the ball. Okay? If we are looking at total offense statistics for the 2023 season, okay, Washington comes in at number 10. Number 10. Michigan comes in at number 58. If college football continues to mirror the NFL, the team that has been all offense, very little defense this year, Washington, could have a puncher's chance. Now, Michigan seems to be built to play against Washington. What do you do against a high-flying offensive attack? You play zone. Michigan runs zone 76% of the time. That is 7th most in America. If defense still wins championships, Michigan wins. If not, Washington has a great shot. What do you think Michigan wants to do offensively, Diesel? I mean, you know Michigan, right? What do they want to do to you? What do they want to do to you?
Well, they certainly don't want to kick field goals because history says they don't have a very high success rate of making those field goals when it really, really matters. They got to be able to run the football. They got to be able to blow Washington's defensive line off the ball. If they can control the game and be more physical than Washington, I think they'll be able to win this one fairly easily.
My score, 31-20. Michigan. Here's the thing. What is the bait for Michigan in this game? And are they going to take the bait? The bait is Washington can't play pass defense. 120th in the nation against the pass. Knowing that, does Michigan take the bait and try to do something that they don't normally do as much? Remember, how many consecutive running plays did they have against Penn State? 18? 18 straight running plays, something like that. Penn State couldn't stop them. I'm curious if Michigan passes more because of the knowledge that Washington doesn't defend the pass well. But I will tell you this, man. I think this contrast in styles, enjoy it while you got it, my friends, because the NFL doesn't offer this. The NFL doesn't offer high-octane 2023 futuristic football of Washington against the old tried and true 1960s formula bludgeon you Michigan. You don't get that in the NFL. Largely, everybody has the same style in the National Football League. You are getting a total contrast in styles in the national championship game. You've heard the saying, what makes us different makes us great. That's this game. Total difference in styles. Blue blood brand versus new blood brand. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I can't wait. I will be rooting for Washington. Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite. Michigan has a 74.3% chance to win. If Washington wins, you heard me say it on Friday's show, what do they have to do? They got to get to first digit 3. They're going to have to score 30. A special teams touchdown would be great. A win in the turnover battle is a must. And then for me, how about the fact that over the course of the season, Michael Penix Jr., big Penix energy he has, 53% completion on passes over 30 yards in the air. Not a screen, 30-yard passes in the air, completed 53% of his passes. That is insane. Insane. Against Texas, passes that traveled over 20 yards in the air. He was 7 for 11 for 257 yards. The accuracy on the deep ball from Michael Penix Jr. is something we have never seen before. So how about this? What if we come back, and when we do, I will tell you the most likely NFL upset in the wild card round. That, my friends, is next. And this is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. And we are the Fan Upstate.
Unfiltered, uncensored, and unapologetic.
It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate, seeing a lot of national championship picks and predictions come in, but only those that have your names will count. Seeing a lot coming in with no names attached. How do we know who won if the pick doesn't have your name? Joshua Wood says 34-30 Michigan. Chase says beatdown alert, 43-10 Michigan. Justin Addis, wow, Justin, close call, 23-21 Michigan.
I'm going 28-21 Michigan.
How about
by
that?
the way.
There you go. I'm going 31-20 Michigan. Josh, 28-13 Michigan. Washington has 3 1,000-yard receivers, Texter says. Capably, yes. But again, number one defense in America they're going up against. Billy D says Washington 37, Michigan 34. Let's see here. Brandon Keeler. Brandon, I hope you understand you work here, so we can't. You're
Not eligible.
You're ineligible for the score. Also, we already have a 37-34 Washington. So any pick that comes in with that score, 37-34 Washington, will not win because the first score that comes in that wins that is the winner. So 37-34 has already been taken. Let's reset this for you, okay? Here are the scores that have been claimed thus far. E. Thoughty, Washington wins 30-27. Brian Pettit, Michigan wins 35-31. Clemson Oculus, Washington wins 35-30. Granton Five Forks, Michigan wins 34-20. Joshua says Michigan wins 34-30. Chase says Michigan wins 43-10. If Michigan wins a blowout, Chase has a great shot to do it. Justin Addis, Michigan 23, Washington 21. Josh, Michigan 28, Washington 13. Billy D, Washington 37, Michigan 34. Mark, Michigan didn't attempt to pass in the second. That blows my mind. Like, how bad is Penn State that you do not force Michigan to throw a pass against you? Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. All right. Texter says, Scotty Hawkins says Michigan 34, Washington 24. Eric D says Washington 41-31. As a Buckeye fan, it pains me, but 42-24 in favor of that team up north. So says James. James, appreciate your participation in our national championship challenge. I really, really do. If I were to give you guys my top 10 in college football right now, because it's basically set, folks, like number 1 is going to be the winner tonight. Number 2 is going to be the loser tonight, right? Like we know that. So my top 10 is essentially set right now. If I were voting for the top 10 in college football to end the year, here's who it would be. Arizona would be my number 10. They were 14th in the last college football playoff rankings, but they beat number 12 Oklahoma. Penn State got ramrodded by Ole Miss. LSU to me was unimpressive. Arizona, I bumped them up to number 10. I've got Missouri number 9, beat Ohio State. Ohio State does not appear in my top 10. Ole Miss pounded Penn State. Penn State does not appear in my top 10. Oregon all over poor Liberty. They stole their liberty from them in that game. Alabama to me falls to number 6. Probably should not have been in the college football playoff, but they were. I've got Texas number 5. Georgia number 4. Well, Mark Ryan, Alabama beat Georgia. Yeah, but Georgia has fewer losses. Okay? I've got Georgia 4, Florida State 3rd. Remember, I shared with you guys that Florida State was the most likely, most deserving, second most obvious college football playoff selection to Washington. There was no question about Florida State's candidacy. Far more of a question about Michigan and their cheating than Florida State having an injury.
Sad thing about that is if Florida State makes the college football playoff, they don't lose 21 players, including Tate Rodemaker.
Diesel, they would have played Michigan, and it would have been a game. It would have been a game. I'm telling you, it would have been a game.
And then the shocker of all shockers, Tate Rodemaker transfers to Southern Miss.
Yeah, weird.
That's
weird.
A dude who could have gone to at least a dozen Power 5 programs.
And you're going to hit me with, well, Mark Ryan, there's no way. Georgia beat Florida State 63-3. You've got Georgia behind Florida State. Georgia didn't beat Florida State. That was not Florida State. A win over a practice squad does not a win make. I got Florida State 3rd. I've got Georgia 4th. That would be my final top 10 if I'm a voter in the poll. Some of you might say, good thing you're not a voter in the poll, Mark Ryan. Be that as it may. Okay. Florida State would be my number 3 team. There is my top 10. We've got Chris Phillips, SEC Unfiltered, joining us next. Gamecocks, some additions in the transfer portal. Lamont Paris lighting it up. Lane Kiffin slaying it in the portal so far. Next, here at Offsides, we are Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Chris Phillips joining us momentarily here on the show this afternoon as we get you set for the national championship game tonight. Michigan against Washington, my friends. Really odd, isn't it? Really, really odd that when you consider the geography of this game, you know, think about where Michigan is on the map, where Washington is on the map. Okay? Think about where South Dakota is on the map, where Montana is on the map. We have not a single Southern team in the bracket for either FCS or FBS. Is that a blip or is that a trend? Consider the geography. FCS, FBS, South Dakota State, Montana, Michigan, and Washington.
I love that we have different regions for different divisions of college football showing out. I love that it's not predictably football in the Southeast is dominant in FCS just as it is in FBS. I know this year, obviously, with Michigan and Washington being in the national championship game, it kind of turns out on its head. But if you look back at the last 15, 20 years, I love that there's a completely different region that's got elite college football being played in it. And it's not just those four programs. There's so many good schools in the Pacific Northwest playing great FCS football. I love what it adds to the sport.
There you go. All right. Joining us right now, Chris Phillips. No longer the Spurs Up Show, but now SEC Unfiltered joining us on the show today. All right, Chris, the $1 million question. This is unbelievable. 51% say no, 49% say yes. If Michigan wins tonight, does their title come with an asterisk, Chris? Knowing you the way that I do, I predict you're going to say no. Knowing me the way that you do, you are right to say that I said yes. What's your answer?
Well, Mark and Diesel, first things first, appreciate you having me on, and thank you so much, Mark, for starting me with a zinger. I'll say no. I will say no. It does not have an asterisk. I think if we start putting asterisks on national titles, we got to start going back and probably putting a lot of asterisks out there, if you will. So I'm going to say no. I don't think they will put one. I don't think they should put one unless maybe more comes out and there's more proof of something happening. I don't know that Jim Harbaugh is going to be around to catch that accountability, but I'll say no. That's interesting, the divide, though. 51% you said no, 49% yes. So to your point, Mark, there has not been as much chatter as I thought there would about, you know, is Michigan a tarnished champion? Should they not have been in the playoff? That never really was a discussion, which is kind of surprising to me. But I'll side with no as well. I don't think there should be an asterisk next to this.
What is your national championship pick tonight? I'm going Michigan 31-20.
Yeah, I've got Michigan as well, Mark. As crazy as it sounds, it feels like the Michigan Wolverines are somewhat of a team of destiny. And I know that, again, sounds kind of strange to say, but, you know, the stars, it feels like they were lining. I know we're all pulling for the underdog in Washington. It's really tough to bet against Michael Penix Jr. and what he's done this year and what, you know, the team that Kalen DeBoer has built. I think Michigan, though, we said this about Texas also, but it's a different level, right? The physicality in the trenches, I think they've got enough of that, and I think they've got enough elite bodies on defense to, you know, disrupt the flow of Michael Penix Jr. But I think this is going to be an all-time classic. I've got Michigan winning the game, Mark, 30-28. I think it's a back-and-forth affair. You know, I think you can only slow down Michael Penix Jr., not completely stop him. I think it's a big night for Blake Corum. I think J.J. McCarthy, as much as I think he's kind of a game manager, he's heard a lot of the disrespect. I think he'll make a lot of big throws. I think he'll play much better tonight than he did in that game against Alabama. I think Michigan as a whole will play better. I think it's going to be a really fun national title, and I think Michigan will find a way to get it done. And I think Jim Harbaugh will sail off into the sunset for the NFL shortly after.
Chris, who in the SEC has done the best job replacing its transfer portal defections with incoming transfer portal guys? Like not so much with numbers, but with quality, with production. Who do you think is not going to see too much of a drop off there?
I mean, I think you got to go, Diesel, with Ole Miss. I mean, Lane Kiffin is the portal king at this point. I mean, what they've done. Now, I will say, when you phrase the question, Diesel, like you did, who has replaced their defections? Ole Miss is a team that won 11 games, right? So, I mean, I don't know they had necessarily a great deal of defections, but they've added a plethora of talent via the portal. I think South Carolina, admittedly, has actually lately done a pretty good job. They flipped the running back room, I think, this portal cycle. I think they've done a pretty good job of, they lost Stone Blanton and Puff Howard. They picked up a couple of guys over the weekend, over the past couple of weeks, that I think maybe you could argue they flipped that linebacker room, right? You talk to folks around there, they've got more speed, more versatility in that room than they once did. They added some Power 5 bodies on the defensive front. They also added an offensive lineman from Oklahoma yesterday, and they added an FCS All-American, which, I know Gamecock fans are probably exhausted with FCS guys, but, an All-American nonetheless. So I think you could say Shane Beamer has actually done a pretty good job. They're ranked number 2 right now in the SEC portal rankings, number 4 nationally after the latest pickups. I think Kentucky, guys, has done a really good job as well. When you talk about replacing or shoring up defections, if you will, picking up Brock Vandagriff, the transfer quarterback from Georgia, and then Jamar Dumas Johnson, the linebacker from Georgia on the defensive side. I think Kentucky would be up there as well. So those are a couple of my biggest winners from the portal. I think Texas A&M too, what Mike Elko has done, landing some big guys. So those would be probably my top winners. Again, I think, and I'm not just saying this because of my South Carolina ties, but I really do think you could list the Gamecocks up there near the top. But if we're just talking about who has won the portal and picked the most talent, man, what Ole Miss has done is crazy. Just go look at it's just dude. Everybody is a big-time SEC contributor, it seems they've picked up. And so Lane Kiffin, really, they're pushing the chips all in to make a playoff run next year.
Chris Phillips joining us here on the show. So, Chris, could you help us understand, because we heard Cliff Ellis was the coach formerly of Auburn basketball, most recently Coastal Carolina, retired in part because he said there's no continuity anymore in college sports. We've got Gamecock listeners who don't know what the team is for next year, right? Like who's in, who's out, etc. Can you update us on the latest in terms of the latest Gamecock additions via the portal, including the big offensive lineman from Oklahoma?
Yeah, for sure, Mark. And again, I know it's a struggle, obviously, for fans of every school, where it's just, you don't know who's in, who's out, who's leaving, who's staying, what have you. But South Carolina has had a really, really productive last 24 or 48 hours or so. The latest, obviously, yesterday, pair of Power 5 guys, offensive lineman Aaron Parks and defensive lineman Monkel Goodwine. Parks coming from Oklahoma and Goodwine coming from Alabama. Now, both these guys played in reserve roles, Mark. Parks, the guy that was a backup offensive lineman, reserve O-lineman for most of his career. But, you look at the size, Mark, 330 pounds. And the last I checked, Oklahoma does a pretty good job of developing and spitting out top-notch offensive linemen. And for a team, right, Mark, that struggled to block anybody last year, I think adding any sort of quality depth is a big pickup for this football team and this football program. And then Monkel Goodwine, kind of the same thing, guys. Did not register a stat in 2 seasons at Alabama, was a 4-star prospect in high school. But, hey, he was good enough to go to Alabama. So, for a team, again, that's looking for quality bodies in the trenches, and you saw those, those concerns up front, both at the edge position and interior, the lack of depth, if you will. I think that's where you can really, Mark and Diesel, shore up is in regards to depth, right? Competitive depth. It's not all about just landing the stud guy, the starter, if you will. You'd like to get as many of those guys you can, but if you can land quality depth pieces, that's going to help your football team. So those are the latest from yesterday. Like I said, over the last week or so, Brady Hunt, a tight end from Ball State, is a guy that, Mark, I'm sure you love this, obviously, because you love the new direction of college football. He was a guy coming from Ball State, enters the portal, commits to South Carolina. There's rumors, it was reported he was flipping to Texas A&M off a portal commitment. Then he stays with South Carolina. So the dramatics there were insane. I mentioned the way they've upgraded the linebacker position. Bangali Kamara from Pittsburgh and Demetrius Knight from Charlotte are two of those guys. They also picked up Gage Larbadane from Miami of Ohio in the last week at the wide receiver position, and also Amari Huggins-Bruce from Louisville. So, Mark, I say all that, and Mark and Diesel, I know y'all agree. I say all that to say this as well, though. Here's my best advice for college fans. Go to the spring game, get a roster, and figure it out from there. Because at this point, or maybe even just wait till fall camp, because at this point, guys are changing numbers, they're changing schools, they're changing positions. It is really, really hard to keep up with. But make no mistake again, I think South Carolina, they went 5-7 last year, right? They knew they had to change something. I think they've actually done a pretty decent job of out with the old, in with the new, and obviously they're hoping that new talent will lead to new results this year.
Chris, I'm going to ask you a selfish question here. What can you tell me about former South Carolina wide receiver Xavier Short, who has announced his transfer commitment to my school, App State?
Well, congratulations to the Mountaineers, man. Yeah, he's a Chapin product right there outside of Columbia. Didn't see any action at South Carolina. I think he actually went to Carolina as a preferred walk-on, if I recall correctly. Guy who's a bit of a tight end wide receiver hybrid. I mean, from everything I've heard, and I've talked to folks that are close to Chapin's football, and they grew up watching this kid, and they watched him at Chapin, like I mentioned. I mean, I think he's got a bright future. So, I mean, I think it's one of those deals where, Diesel, you should be excited for it. I mean, I think you keep realistic expectations. It's a guy that I don't know if he ever registered a stat at South Carolina. I don't know that he did. But, certainly I think go down a level. I think doors open up for you. I'm sure he'll probably see a lot more playing time. And, again, there were a lot of folks high on him coming out of high school. So I won't blame you if you're excited for what Xavier Short can do up there in Boone.
Chris, can we nerd it out just a little bit here and go through position group by position group for South Carolina? You tell me, better or worse than they were in 2023? Okay. So we're looking ahead to 2024, and we're saying, this time next year, will we be saying this position group was better or worse than that group in 2023? Okay. So do we start the year with them being better, yay or nay? Obviously, quarterback's a no. But I'll let you start it. Okay, so we'll do like quarterback, running back, receivers. That includes tight ends. Okay, so receivers, pass catchers, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, secondary. What do you think? Let's go through it one by one. Better or worse than 2023?
Quarterback, I'll say no. I just think it's so disrespectful to Spencer Rattler to say that Lenora Sellers is going to do what he did and then some. I can't do that yet until I see it proven on the field. He's got the potential. I'm going to say no at quarterback right now. And that's after the season. Again, year one, you got to have realistic expectations. He doesn't have an all-star cast around him. Let's be honest. I'll say no. Running back, absolutely yes. They're going to be better. There's no question. Rocket Sanders, Oscar Attaway, Juju McDowell is back. They added that kid. I think it's Jawan Howard from South Carolina State. That room has been flipped. Receivers, I'll say no. I think losing, even though Juice Wells didn't play, you lose him. You lose Xavier Legette. That's the big one. Again, there's a lot of potential in the room, Mark. Are you going to have another 1,000-yard receiver? I don't think so. Could you end up being a better room in regards to like your top 4 or 5 guys? Maybe. But right now, it's all unproven. I'll say no. Offensive line, Mark, they can't be worse. They just literally can't be worse. I'm going to say yes. And again, I think they've added a couple pieces. I think you bring back those young guys and Big Tree Babalade, and you've got Marquis Anderson's going to come back from injury, Trovon Bowe, Jatavius Shivers, then you add in guys like Cam Pringle and Josiah Thompson. They're going to be better. I'm not telling you they're going to be perfect, but they're not going to be the worst offensive line in the SEC. I think they're going to average more than 85 yards per game rushing. At least I certainly hope so. Defensive line, yeah, I think they'll be better. I do. I think they've added some Power 5 talent up front. I do think Travion Robertson year 2, I liked what he did in year 1 of his tenure in Columbia. Former Gamecock, obviously, a friend of our show, right? I had him on the show a couple of years ago, actually, and a great dude. And glad he's in Columbia. I think the defensive line will take a step forward. Linebacker, yes, I think they'll be better. I actually think they have, at minimum, brought in similar talent. I could see that group taking a step forward next year, right? For everything that Stone Blanton and Pup Howard were, there's many things they were not. I think you get Mo Kaba back from injury. Again, you added the kid from Pitt. You added the kid from Georgia Tech. You added a couple edge guys that can stop back and play a linebacker position. So I think they'll be better at linebacker. And then secondary is an interesting one, Mark. You get O'Donnell Fortin back. You're going to have a young guy step up at the other corner, I believe, because, yes, Dial is gone. So you got to have somebody step up. You've got Nicky Manwari back. You've got DQ Smith back. I think the secondary is going to be better, Mark, because I think the D-line and linebackers are going to be better. I think they're going to do a better job of getting a pass rush. And I think the secondary just flat out underachieved for the majority of the season, right? They came on late, but did not play up to their standard, up to their capabilities. So from what it sounds like, Mark, I think South Carolina is going to be an improved team next year. I don't know. I mean, it does feel like they have flipped a couple position units, and they should take a step forward in a couple areas. Quarterback, I think, though, Mark, that's going to be the big one. That kind of determines what type of season you have. And I don't think Lenoris Sellers has to be as good or better than Spencer Rattler was. It just can't be a huge drop-off.
Will Texas and Oklahoma, respectively, Chris, sink, swim, or tread water in the SEC? And I'm thinking about this from a 10-year perspective, from a 15-year perspective. You know, sinking to me is sub 500. Swimming is being in the top 3 to 4 of the league, and treading water is just kind of sitting there in that 7-win mark most seasons.
I think Texas is going to swim, Diesel. I like what Texas has. I believe in Steve Sarkisian, the offensive side of the football. I think he's one of the best offensive minds in the game. Am I ready to say that? Let's just say it. I think Texas is back. I think Texas is back to being a top of college football premier program. Now, they need to win a national championship to really, really be back like Texas fans want. But I think Texas is going to swim. Oklahoma right now, and I think they set themselves up well this year, a double-digit win season. The bowl game didn't go how they wanted. Jackson Arnold, they're all everything quarterback, did not play well, but I mean, it's a bowl game, whatever. I'm going to say they're going to tread water right now just because, I don't know with Brent Venables. I'm not 100% on Brent Venables. Again, they had a great season. Year 1 was a disaster. Year 2 was a good year. So what are they? I just don't know what they are, and I don't know what Brent Venables is long-term as a head coach. And they just got rid of the defensive coordinator, Ted Ruth. Who did they go out and get? Are they able to play out to the standard of Brent Venables' defense, right, that we saw in the upstate for so many years? If they can do that, they're going to swim, right? But not everybody can swim, Diesel, to your point. Like, not everybody's going to win 10 games. So right now, I'll go with Texas swimming, Oklahoma treading water. I think Oklahoma, obviously, with the history of their program, they've got the potential to be an elite program. But there's a lot of programs we could say that about. And there's only going to be a couple, like I mentioned, that can win 10 or 11 games. So, but right now, I'm not sure Oklahoma is one of those.
The SEC averages 3 new head coaches every single year, Chris. So that means this last season has been an anomaly. Next year will not. I'm asking you to forecast who's receiving their pink slip in 2024. There's now 16 teams. Can you pick 3?
Let's see, Mark. I hate to do it, man. I got to go to Gainesville. I mean, I actually just got off a conversation with our good friend SEC Mike, and he was asking me about Billy Napier. And I like Billy Napier. I just don't think he's going to survive the 2024 season. I tell you what, Mark, that Week 3 game against Texas A&M gets more and more and more intriguing. And that one kind of feels like a must-win for Billy Napier, right? I mean, that game 1 against Miami, which we're going to be at, and I can't wait to be at the Swamp. It's going to be big. But Week 3 against A&M, Mike Elko comes in, first-year head coach. And I'm sure you've been noticing, Mark, Texas A&M has just been plucking Florida.
Why? Why, though?
I don't know.
These guys aren't good players.
It still makes for quite – and then I'm sure you saw this. The son of Emmitt Smith is now on Texas A&M's roster coming via the portal. So that just feels like an important game. I just think, Mark, with that schedule and that football team, and, he gets Graham Mertz back, and that's all fine and dandy. But, man, I mean, our Gator fans, can they sit through a 6-6 season and him come back in year 4? Is 7-5 good enough? I mean, Mark, 8-4, and he should win Coach of the Year with that schedule that you pointed out it's probably the toughest schedule in college football history. So if I got to project, I think Billy Napier is probably out. I think Clark Lee at Vanderbilt could be out. I actually think back-to-back 2 or 3 win seasons, and that may be enough. I think they're balled in on him, but I looked at that schedule today, Mark, and I mean, it's another murderer's row, and it's just hard to see. And I mean, Vandy was as gutted as anybody in the transfer portal in regards to they basically lost every good player they had. And it's just the unfortunate reality in Nashville. Outside of that,
I got one you haven't named. I can't believe you haven't named it. This guy's going to get fired before Napier will, and before Lee will.
who am I missing right now? Who am I missing?
Sam Pittman.
Oh, yes, Pittman. Okay, he should be number one. I apologize. I completely blanked on that. Yeah. No, I mean, you made the point, Mark, and I mean, you're absolutely right. When your AD comes out and says, we're bringing our coach back next year, that's literally letting everybody know that, hey, if he doesn't win next year, he's gone. I mean, I definitely think, to your point, Mark, that we could see Sam Pittman fired, especially if the trend continues from this past season where they're getting blown out at home. That just doesn't sit well, right? That's typically the signs of the end. So I think Pittman could be first, but those are probably my top three then. Sam Pittman, Billy Napier, and I think Clark Lee. I think it takes to the point where just, obviously we're in Gamecock circles. I think that it takes 4-8 or worse to get Shane Beamer's name in that conversation. I think even at 5-7, I think he's back in 2025. 6-6 or better, and he's obviously safe. But man, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised. Things have really gone off the rails if we're talking about Shane Beamer's name in that light, and I hope we're not. Truly. So those would be my top three, though: Pittman, Napier, and Clark Lee.
Chris, we're running here tight on time, but I want to give you one more opportunity. If you want to stick a knife in Mark's heart anymore, do you have any other takes on Florida that will ruin his day anymore?
Diesel, I don't think I have anything I can say that is more damning than the actual team itself and what has happened in recent memory. I will say this, though. Like, I don't necessarily want to turn the knife in Mark's heart because, again, I'm going to Gainesville week 1. So I want those Florida people to not chew me up and spit me out, and I'm sure they would if they had the opportunity, if I'm riding them too hard. So I'm trying to enjoy my time at the Swamp.
Hey, guess who kept you out of a bowl game, pal? Yeah. Guess who kept you out of a bowl game? Right.
Hey, and then Mark, actually, by the way, I deserve credit because we dropped our quarterback rankings for the 2023 season. I had Graham Mertz one spot ahead of Spencer Rattler, and I caught hell for that. But you know why I did it, Mark? Those two quarterbacks faced off. Graham Mertz won head-to-head, and the stats were better. So I'm trying to give respect to a guy that I anointed 14th best before the season started. So
smart men learn from their mistakes. Good luck on the new venture. SEC Unfiltered has replaced the Spurs Up Show. Now the entirety of the Southeastern Conference covered under the umbrella by Chris Phillips. Thank you, Chris. We'll talk to you next week.
Mark and Diesel, appreciate you guys. We'll talk soon.
All right. We've got the top 5 at 5 coming your way next here on Offsides. We are the Fan Upstate.
Mark Ryan. This is
What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7:00 p.m. today. National Championship Monday. Let us, favorite word in the English dictionary, keep you abreast of what we've got going on the show today. We've got our national championship game challenge for you. What does that mean? That means for those of you who have the cojones to want to be a sports talk show host, you pick the closest score to tonight's game among all those participating. here on the Upstate's most popular afternoon drive talk show. And you will be hosting a segment of this show on Friday. 4 to 5 minutes of this show are yours this coming Friday. Now, we'll ask you, does the end of the 4 o'clock hour work better for you? Or does the end of the 5 o'clock hour work better for you? But all you need to do is call or text in your score for tonight's game to 71307. Okay? In your text message, make sure you have your winning team, the score of the game, and your name, so we know who we're calling to crown you as the victor. Who is going to win? And more importantly, which one of you guys is going to fulfill a lifelong dream of being a sports talk show host? It's amazing to me. Like, I don't understand this job not being everybody's dream, because it was always my dream, right? You know, and so like it's always amazing to me. Like, we get so much love from the audience and everything. When I was a kid, like the sports talk show hosts, because I knew what I wanted to do, like these guys were like icons to me. Now I am one, and I'm like, well, no, I'm just a normal dude, just a normal guy, you know. But when I was growing up, the guys that I listened to on the air, they were like legends to me, because like I so wanted to do it. They were the Wizard of Oz. They were the man behind the curtain. How can I get to do what they do? Here is your chance to get to do what we do. Perhaps a custom intro with your own name on Offsides this coming Friday, should you have the closest score. Okay, you got to pick the winning team. You got to have the closest score. Get your picks in, my friends. 71307. Just start your text with the word fan. Give us your name and give us your winner and your score, and we will file that away. Winner announced right off the top at 3 o'clock p.m. tomorrow, and we will be in touch with you tomorrow if you are the winner. Sound good? What do you say? Also, programming note, we will be live on location at Ingles Markets this coming Wednesday. Warren H. Abernathy Highway in the Berg, one of our favorite stores to go to. So, guys, come out, win a gift card, always have freebies to give away, shirts and hats. Great chance to meet you if we haven't had a chance to do so already. This Wednesday, Warren H. Abernathy Highway in the Berg. How about that? All right, my friends, it is time to do that jam. We call it the Top 5 at 5. The top 5 biggest sports stories of the day, the top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the Upstate, Offsiders, the Top 5 at 5 starts right now.
Now, the Top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit it.
5.
At number 5. How about this for a poll, man? Wow. Now the lead has changed. If Michigan wins tonight, does their national championship come with an asterisk? Online, this poll has been posted. 50.3% say yes, 49.7% say no. Still a long way to go in the voting, but that, my friends, is a perfect poll to post. You know, we always know when we posted a poll that maybe we shouldn't have. If the results are like 94 to 6%, it's like, did you really need to ask the audience that question? The audience knows the answer to that, right? This one is as close to 50-50 as humanly possible. So we ask you guys that question, and I answer conclusively. Yes, the title has an asterisk next to it if Michigan wins. I don't hate Michigan. I don't hate Jim Harbaugh. I realize if you're a Michigan fan, you might hate me right now. That said, it is obvious that cheating took place. The NCAA moves at a snail's pace, so it's up to us, the court of opinion, to hold them accountable. To me, Florida State was far more deserving of a spot in the playoff than Michigan because of this sign-stealing scandal. But Mark Ryan, Jim Harbaugh didn't know. Shouldn't he have known? But Mark Ryan, it didn't help him that much. Well, then why do it? You know, if you're a smart kid in class, why are you cheating if you don't need to? If you're a smart kid and you cheat, you still get a 0, even if you didn't need to cheat to get an A. Well, Mark Ryan, everyone was doing it. Prove it. I'd love to see the evidence. Right now, I only have the evidence that you are guilty. So, yes, what do you guys say? If Michigan wins tonight, does the title come with an asterisk? I say indubitably. Next up.
4.
All right, number 4, Diesel, with some interesting data as to the proficiency of the FCS schools.
Yeah, this comes from Reddit CFB that posted this yesterday. And this is one of those reasons why, if you're a fan of a team that maybe doesn't have everything squared away, you might not want to schedule the top 2 to 3 elite FCS schools, because they're probably going to beat you. So this is the post from Reddit CFB. If you're wondering how top FCS teams might fare against top Power 5 teams, here's 3 games and scores between a defending FCS champ and a Power 5 team that had just gone to a New Year's 6 or BCS Bowl the year before. North Dakota State, 23. Number 13, Iowa, 21. North Dakota State, man, they were just on a roll for a decade there, and we'll see if they can get back. They were in the FCS playoffs this year. They made it all the way to, I think, the semifinals before they lost at home to Montana on a crazy finish, and Montana got smoked yesterday in the FCS National Championship. J.D. Wyatt, astute observation. Why are they playing this game at 1 in the afternoon on a Sunday? Horrible timing, horrible time slot to put that game in. Then you look at North Dakota State, who in 2013 were coming off of an FCS National Championship. They beat Kansas State 24-21. Kansas State had been to a New Year's 6 game the year prior. And then you go back to 2007 when App State, coming off of 2 FCS National Championships, beat then number 5 Michigan 34-32. Don't schedule elite FCS teams. They can absolutely beat you no matter how good you are, because there's just something about the winning formula, having the right coaching staff, having the right quarterback. They can go out and beat you no matter how good you are. You're top 5. Michigan lost to an FCS defending national champion. Just fascinating information.
Diesel, it's interesting you're saying don't schedule when you're always fighting for them to schedule. My big question is, where are these teams actually? Like, if you stack them up toe-to-toe against the FBS, because we've seen what happens when, like, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF join the Big 12. The first year is rough.
Right.
They don't have the depth. We're not asking about that. I'm asking about a one-game scenario.
Sure.
Where are they? To me, Diesel, do I think the best FCS school could beat Liberty? Liberty's 23rd.
Yeah.
I do. Do I think the best FCS school could beat SMU? They're 24th. I do. Clemson is 22nd.
Yeah.
What do you say?
I think the best FCS teams, talent and scheme-wise, are probably sitting there on a good day as around the 30th best team in college football. Now, obviously, there's a huge difference in putting them up against a better competition week in and week out. There's the scholarship differences. So, like, trying to have that conversation is like trying to pin Jell-O to a wall. Well, could they be better if they moved up? Yeah. Would they? Probably not, because they don't have the depth of other schools. Well, it depends on if you play them early in the season, when the depth won't matter as much because everybody is healthy. If you play them late in the season, once both squads are kind of beat up, where the Power 5 school has more depth to fall back onto. But I think talent-wise, the elite group of, the elite FCS teams are sitting right there around that 30 range and can beat most anybody in the. I would put them a better than 30% chance to beat anybody outside of the top 15 on any given day. Probably about a 20% chance to beat somebody inside the top 15.
Wow. How about that? Next up.
3.
At number 3, folks have been asking me, Mark, what do you make of Jameis Winston? Well, you'd have to ask what happened with Jameis Winston in order to get to that. Here it is. And by the way, we have a clip here from Dennis Allen and a clip here from Arthur Smith on the event. The Saints beat the Falcons yesterday, leading to Arthur Smith's firing 48-17. Okay? Well, it was bad enough when it was 41-17, but Jameis Winston, favorite word warning, eschewed his head coach's order, Dennis Allen, to take a knee. And they ran in, they tacked in another touchdown late. They won 48-17. That's what you do to a rival. Arthur Smith was none too pleased with the final play.
Career. Oh, and Arthur Smith's hot. That Dennis Allen scored a touchdown at the end. He is hot. He said, "What are you doing?" And he's going at Dennis Allen. You can read his lips, and you know. And I think he's got a right, by the way, to do that.
He has no rights. You have no right to control what other people do. You know, again, stop them. Shut up. Stop them. You know, like, it's the sorest move ever. You know, it shows that I got to be mad at somebody because we got our asses kicked. Stop them.
You know,
all right, now, but what's interesting, Diesel? Yeah, go ahead.
Have you ever seen the movie Inglourious Bastards?
Yes.
Fantastic movie.
Yes.
So at the very end, the German officer is surrendering to Brad Pitt's character, and instead of keeping both the men alive, Brad shoots the unimportant guy, right? And the German officer is like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? I made a deal for that man's life." And he says, "They're gonna hold this against you. That you'll be shot for doing this." And Brad Pitt says this, and it's more apropos now that we know that Dennis Allen is no more.
"You'll be shot for this?" Nah, I don't think so. More like chewed out. I've been chewed out before.
He thought he was just going to get chewed out. Ultimately, he got shot for this.
He did. Now, Dennis Allen, the Saints head coach, actually took the mic to apologize for this incident.
To finish out that game, that's not who we are. That's not how we operate. We should have taken a knee. So I want to apologize to them. Because, look, we're all like, we got a good rivalry. And it's a heated rivalry. But there's a way we go about doing our business, and I wasn't happy about that.
To clarify, like what happened?
We should have taken a knee right there. You know, they asked me about getting Jamal a touchdown at the end. I said I wanted to take a knee. We put victory out there, and the guys kind of wanted to get him a touchdown, and they did that on their own. That's unacceptable.
You know, and you wonder, should Jameis Winston lose his gig for doing that? You know, I mean, you guys have heard me say this, and a lot of the Clemson homers have fought back about this. I've been very critical when Cade Klubnik doesn't run the play that's called. He does not have the authority to run a different play other than the one that's called, period. Okay? Certainly in this case, the coach instructs you to do something. Now, I have no problem if you called a play to get a touchdown and you got a touchdown. I have a big problem if the coach ordered you to do something else and you didn't do it. That's a real problem I have with that. Next up.
2.
At number 2 on the show today. Can we establish something, please? What are we doing here? There's a player, Jaden Vosine, South Alabama safety, withdrew from the transfer portal and is going back to South Alabama. Going back to South Alabama. Why? Because South Alabama took him back. I continue to be shocked at the number of teams taking players back who turn their back on them. Think of it in a relationship sense. Your partner tells you they want to leave your committed relationship to see what's out there. Then later they try to get back with you. What would you say? No thanks. Why are so many teams eager to take back guys who left them? You know, there were a whole host of Gamecock fans who publicly stated they would take Juice Wells back if he elected to come back. Give me a break. The guy is spiking the football on you, driving your golf cart, getting his haircut in your barbershop in the football building. Give me a break.
Haircuts that you paid for, by the way.
Yeah, have a spine. Have a spine. You know, learn to say no. These players walked out on you. They need to learn a very, very difficult lesson. And finally,
1.
guys, it's time to take the kid gloves off when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. Simply put, he has not been great. He has not been great, and he has not been great as an NFL pro. He has 3 years under his belt right now. One of those 3 years has been good. If I, through 3 years here, had one good year out of 3, this company would have replaced me. Okay? They would have. But, my friends, Trevor Lawrence has one good year out of 3, and the narrative is still franchise quarterback. Dude hasn't played like it. When Jacksonville was 8-3, the Jaguars had a 98% chance to make the playoffs. They had a 90% chance to get in as of yesterday. I give Trevor Lawrence a lot of credit for battling injuries, concussion, and we had an ankle, concussion, and a shoulder injury. The way he ensured he was there for his team when he was needed is commendable. But, brother, in a must-win game yesterday, they fell short to a bad team. To a bad team playing a quarterback who was benched, started, and benched again. To a Derrick Henry who is now past his prime. To a team that entered the game 5-11. You couldn't beat that team with a playoff berth on the line? Really? Who does it come back to? Always the quarterback. But I can detail this with some statistics. Career quarterback rating. Trevor Lawrence, 85. Justin Fields, 82. Mac Jones, 86. Trevor Lawrence is in between Justin Fields and Mac Jones with a worse career quarterback rating than Mac Jones. And where is Mac Jones' career right now? Poor decision-making from Trevor Lawrence. Too many turnovers for Trevor Lawrence. And you don't even have to make it about opinion. This year in the NFL, Trevor Lawrence's quarterback rating ranked 23rd out of 32 teams. This year in the NFL, Trevor Lawrence's QBR ranked 16th out of 32 teams. He is not playing like a franchise quarterback. If you are a Clemson Tiger, you love the narrative that he is because it helps with the image of your program. It helps with recruiting. The reality is he hasn't been that. His career rating is the picture of mediocrity. And I hope he hears the criticism. And I hope he comes back bigger and better than ever next year. And I realize they fell off from 8-3 in large part because of his injuries. But when he played, he was not great. Brock Purdy was far better than Trevor Lawrence this year. Sometimes, folks, the truth hurts. I'm Mark Ryan, and I approve this message, and those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. The text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan. Away you go. You can get to us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube at The Fan Upstate on every one. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube.
Since you brought up elite level FCS football in the top 5 at 5, I think it's worth mentioning that Greenwood's own, part of our Upstate's favorite athlete bracket, Armani Edwards, was voted into the College Football Hall of Fame on his very first ballot. First ballot Hall of Famer, Greenwood's own Armani Edwards.
You know what I say to that, Diesel? You remember the Upstate's favorite athlete bracket from last year?
Yeah.
He did well. He did well. Like, people I thought needed to be reminded that he was from Greenwood. And then when they were,
didn't he go up against? Who did he go up against? It was a South Carolina player.
I don't remember.
Can anybody remember?
Gilmore?
No, I think it was I think he had like the 1 seed. Because you put him in the play-in category.
Oh, no.
So he got Marcus. I think he faced Marcus Lattimore, and he actually put up one hell of a fight against Marcus Lattimore. Yeah,
better than anyone else did.
So maybe you misseeded him.
Maybe. And finally, email. You guys can all email the show. Mark Ryan, that is MARC Ryan at thefanupstate.com. All the different ways you can get in touch with us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. Up next on the show, we will reset our coverage for tonight's national championship game, tell you all about the key matchups, what to make of them. That is next, plus your participation in our national championship game challenge. All still to come here on Offsides. We are the Fan Upstate.
Stream, fantastic showing as always today. Really appreciate it. We will not be on the stream tomorrow, and we will not be on the stream on Wednesday either because you're going to be live on location at an Ingles.
That's right, my friends. But
Yeah.
we'll see you back here on the stream on Thursday.
That's right.
You guys are awesome. We love you and appreciate you oh so very, very much. And enjoy the national championship game tonight. Make sure you text your picks into the text line of the national championship game. Thank you to everyone who took part in the stream today. We'll see you soon.